heterosexual,
on the question of youth and the family as perceived
even with our lives,
and planned for in the global
It's happening
agenda.
on our watch. If we don't do something.
I'd like to point out from the very outset, you are aware that sexual maturity is increasingly coming earlier to our young people. Okay? Young people are becoming sexually mature as early as 9, 10, isn't it? But it is also the case that social maturity comes later in life. Talk of age 20, 21, isn't it? Do you see that gap of 10 to 12 years? That is the gap that those who think in economic terms would grab. I don't know if you understand. A girl, a boy, is sexually mature at the onset of puberty. But our societies expect them to be socially mature later. You also heard recently there were people who are trying, I think there is a proposal to delay the taking of alcohol to after 21, isn't it? Now, if there is a plan to delay the taking of alcohol after the age of 21, should we be distributing contraception to 11-year-olds? That's where the challenge is. Okay? There is a global plan, properly and well crafted, to undermine human life, to undermine the human family, and to undermine traditional and cultural societies. And it is you, young people, that are going to be put to use. It is you, young people, that are going to be the fodder to feed this agenda. We just have to be alert. Uganda is specifically targeted, partly because it is the youngest population on the African continent. And we are not young by accident. It is also the case that we still have one of the highest fertility rate. Okay? Now, total fertility rate of any country is calculated by dividing the total number of women of childbearing age in a country divided by the children born in that country in that year. Then you will get the total fertility rate. For some reason, the United States, as powerful as it is, its total fertility rate is at 2.1. Norway, Sweden, Denmark, they are all below 1.5. Italy, that lost so many people, may God forbid, due to COVID, is at 1.1. There is no way you can replace such a population. Okay? The total fertility rate required to replace a population is 2.1. Anyone knows at what level Uganda is? Uganda is at 5. So we are literally a threat in terms of numbers. And it explains why we are younger, because our people have been having children. All right? But globally, population is treated as a liability. You get the point? Yes. Globally, population is treated as what? As a liability. Just listen to our radio stations and television stations in the last 6 months. How much advertisement is going into contraception? Have you been attentive? Akaweta, Akaiso, you understand me? It is not cheap to run an advert. Joy was telling me he wanted some of the national media houses to cover our event. She can tell you how much money they wanted from her. You understand me? So if these adverts are running on our radio stations and they're running on our televisions, then there is a substantial amount of money being put behind this agenda. Now, you are aware, good people, that the Catechism of the Catholic Church affirms the family as the basic unit of society. True or false? True. Basic. The cell, just like a cell in your body and another cell to get us tissue, and tissue gets us an organ. All right? So the basic unit of society is what? The family. And the church teaches that the marital union is procreative and unitive. Are we together? It is procreative and what? Yes. And unitive. One that they become one. And then they are open to life. What do you do then when you find that global policy and national policy are against the unitive nature of marriage and the procreative nature of marriage? Young people, we are supposed to be arising, isn't it? Yes. Young man, I tell you, do what? Arise. There is stuff that is keeping us down at the internal level, at the community level. I come to talk about what is happening nationally and globally that is keeping us where? Down, with regard to the family. You have heard in the past there was an advert of Omo, isn't it? Omo, that is good, isn't it? You remember that, Yes. That is what? Essentially, a soft message to the children: don't get worried. You can soil yourself. Mommy will buy Omo. Okay? Mommy, don't get worried. That is good. Let the children do what? Soil themselves. Don't teach them discipline. Those of us who went to school those days, you come home with a soiled trouser, you get a beating before you wash it. All right? Now, that is what? Is good. Now, if I am to sell contraception, if I am to sell abortion, what do I say is good? Tell me, good people, what do I say is good? I'll have to say sex is good. And the earlier it comes, the better. I would like 9-year-olds to be sexually active. Because they still have to go to school, they will demand contraception. Because they still have to go to school, if they're sexually active, they will demand contraception. And when contraception fails, they will demand abortion. And when the two succeed or fail, the medical consequences, the cancers, the ovarian cysts, and all these problems associated with contraception and abortion, again, who will make the money? The same pharmaceutical companies that distributed the contraception. Are you getting the connection, good people? And remember, I told you, sexual maturity comes early, social maturity comes. The big players on the global scene are then targeting that age group deliberately. It is deliberate. And they will target this age group with soft messages, with legal messages, and with policy messages. The people who are online have had the opportunity to view a small clip, The War on Children. There is a global organization that is challenging something called comprehensive sexuality education. Have you heard about it? Okay? Comprehensive sexuality education. When we raise challenges to this kind of education, we look like outcasts. What's wrong with you? Young people are already sexually active. Shouldn't we be teaching them? You get a point? And sounds a logical argument. If the children are sexually active, then better teach them how to survive in that sexual activity. Isn't it? So don't teach them about chastity. Don't teach them about abstinence. Just give them the tools they need to survive STDs, the tools they need to survive pregnancy. You know, pregnancy is also considered as a disease. The young people I interact with elsewhere fear pregnancy more than HIV and AIDS. P2, you've heard of that Casmol pill? Postnatal 2, that is something they swallow every Monday morning. Sells like hot cake. And that's an implication, if the policymakers know, it's an implication that even though they are distributing condoms, young people are not using them. Why? The demand for the emergency pill should already indicate to you that people are not doing what? Using the latex rubber that you're distributing. Okay? We have several organizations that are global, meant to guide global policy and to provide technical assistance to our governments in thinking through matters of human population, matters of health, and matters of education. These organizations that are doing a lot of good have also gotten involved in doing a lot of bad, and that bad is targeting the family. I will list them because there is a possibility that out there are organizations that could be receiving technical assistance and funding from these organizations. You have the World Health Organization, you have UNICEF, you have UNFPA, you have UNAIDS, and that totality of global organizations, which rooted in a very necessary institution, the United Nations, which Pope John the 23rd encouraged. We need a global governance body. Many of these agencies that have been born out of this international organization are adverse to the traditional understanding of the family. To such an extent that recently there is a special rapporteur from the United Nations, the special rapporteur on religious freedoms and liberties, that has prepared a report for the Human Rights Council in which people of faith and religious leaders who critique the lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, you know that whole alphabet, the LGBT movement. Time is coming, if the Human Rights Council adopts that report, preaching in favor of the traditional family and the favor of traditional family values, will be considered criminal or discriminatory. Okay? This global agenda, I'm praying that the young people rise up. Okay? Rise up and see the lies where they are. In your parishes and dioceses, you will see organizations that identify as promoting reproductive health services. I think that word is common. They then stretch it and include sexual. So sexual and reproductive health services. You understand me? And then they add the word rights at the end. So every time you see the phrase sexual and reproductive health and rights, sexual, reproductive, health and what? And rights. As a Catholic, stop a little bit. Because the totality of the evil against which the church teaches is contained in that phrase. And the use of the term rights is deliberate. Because the rights-based approach to development globally has been adopted. And it is a very good thing because actually the Catholic Church is an authority on matters human rights. Okay? The Universal Declaration of Human Rights drew very many principles from Thomas Aquinas, the doctor of the Church. But by rights-based approaches to development, we mean that we create duty bearers who are the state and its agencies with the duty to respect human rights, the duty to protect human rights, and the duty to fulfill human rights. How does a government respect human rights? It respects human rights by not doing anything that offends human rights. Okay? A government protects human rights by preventing anyone else from infringing on human rights. Then the government fulfills human rights by doing everything possible to make that right attained. Okay? So the rights-based approach creates duty bearers, where we have the state and its agencies with the duty to respect, to protect, and to fulfill human rights. But the rights-based approach also creates rights holders, which is you and I. Now, with regard to young people, and by the way, young people, UN definition has youth starting from age 10. Okay? So it begins with 10. These young people also have rights. They are rights holders, and they demand that the state grants those rights. Now, where we have rights, plant, sexual, and reproductive rights. You understand me? So a 10-year-old has sexual and reproductive rights. And the state has a duty to respect those rights, to protect those sexual and reproductive rights of children, and to fulfill those sexual and reproductive rights of... Are you listening to me? Yes. Do you see the challenge? The sexual and reproductive health and rights agenda considers parents as barriers to access of rights by the children. Are you connecting now? That the rights holders who are children with their rights, once you put parents in the equation, okay, the parents will hinder the children from accessing those rights. And if you've been watching some of the adverts on these things, you would see how they are coined to cast doubt on the presence of what? Of parents. In other countries in Africa, we have something called youth-friendly reproductive health services. You've heard about it. These youth-friendly centers are designed to separate children from parents when talking about these things. But you and I know that our traditional setup had ways of talking to us about matters sexuality. True or false? And that these are the matters that just need to be improved, not discarded. And the biggest challenge is that whoever would like to replace our parents and our traditional systems in dealing with the question of sexuality is doing so for economic gains. Okay? Is doing so for what? Economic gains. Check out the CBOs that are doing, community-based organizations, that are doing very well in your dioceses, in your parishes. Find out the programs they are running. I can guarantee you, reproductive services will be somewhere, sexual and reproductive health will be somewhere. This is an agenda that while dealing with young people living with HIV and AIDS, they will distribute condoms at the same table with anal lubricants. You know what anal lubricants are? And you know what they do? They do those terrible things that we don't want to talk about. Okay? So other than counseling the young person out of the adversity in which they are, this agenda has been crafted to promote the behavior other than, okay? As I told you, listen to the adverts very well on our radios and television stations. Have you heard an advert advertising the fertility awareness methods, young people? You know that our church teaches the fertility awareness methods with regard to birth regulation. Huh? Do I have any Catholics in this room? Yes. Okay. Have you had a single advert advertising the fertility awareness methods to birth regulation? Have you heard anyone talking about lactational amenorrhea? Have you heard anyone talking about the symptothermal method? Those of you who are not yet married, please don't get married until your parish priest has shown you someone to give you instruction in the fertility awareness methods. Okay? Just as our parents journey with young girls at their first menses, we should start that early to journey with them about their fertility. Because if we don't, the SRHR agenda will do it. And they will do it inclining them to the use of conventional contraception. I don't know if you have any questions yet. Okay, we'll keep rolling. Now, Uganda. Uganda is one of 20 countries that in 2013 met in South Africa, and these countries came up with a document called the East and Southern Africa Commitments. These commitments were made by our ministries of gender, ministries of education, and ministries of health. And the commitment was, go ye back to your countries and do what? And make sure you mainstream sexual and reproductive health and rights in everything and every program you're running. Okay? In the Ministry of Education, they came with a curriculum for comprehensive sexuality education. And I think it's Father Ronald. Father Ronald or Robert? Father Benedict. No, Father Ronald down in charge of education. Yes, Father Ronald. And his education team at the Episcopal Conference have been putting up a spirited fight to make sure this valueless sexuality education is not imposed on our schools. Now, it was retracted after Parliament had challenged the path. They went to the Curriculum Development Center, split their program of comprehensive sexuality education, and infused it in SST, in CRE, in Islamic studies. You understand me? So it was no longer a standalone curriculum, but doses and snippets of each would come to the students as they go along their normal. Okay? And in the process, the Ministry of Gender then becomes softer on some of these issues. I'm glad you had someone from the Ministry of Gender and is one of us. It means we have an eye on the ground. Okay? In the Ministry of Health, they have an entire program called Safe Motherhood, but a program that has a bias in favor of abortion. Do you understand what I'm talking about? The Association of Obstetricians and Gynecologists of Uganda, you can just check their website. They are running a program called Safe Abortion Advocacy. These are medics who have been trained to journey with mothers on the journey of delivering babies. Someone out there is interested in having these same medics promote an agenda for abortion. And believers, listen to me carefully. The abortion question is not just a moral question. It is a spiritual question. These babies are being sacrificed. Where you and I might not be cut the throat, the babies are doing what? And whoever is doing it is convincing mothers that pregnancy is a disease. Whoever is doing it is convincing the young girls who get pregnant that the worst thing has happened to you. Don't keep that baby. And we Christians play a role by stigmatizing our colleagues who become pregnant. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Okay? So, FIGO, the Federation for International Obstetricians and Gynecologists, sends loads of money to an association of medical doctors in Uganda to promote what? Abortion. Luckily, it is not all the medics that think this way. We have people of faith also, who are concerned about what is doing what? What is going on. What is happening is that a few of their colleagues who would like to serve the money are the ones who end up doing what? Bring this program. So we have to pray for our doctors so that they are not pulled into that direction. So we'd like to do some questions now? Okay.
Thank you so much, our facilitator, Mr. Richard. We have a few questions as we continue to interact and discuss. This is Stephen on WhatsApp. He says, Mr. Augustine, you're right about this topic, but Stephen, I would like to remind you that this is Mr. Richard, not Augustine.
It's Augustine.
Yes.
My name also.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Stephen, for following us. Then there is Charlie Gonza Juliet on WhatsApp. He says, sir, this church doesn't encourage family planning, but there is a rise of children torture. How can the Catholic Church broaden this? Then another question is from Peter on Instagram. I think, Mr. Richard, this adoption of children sometimes predispose to the suffering of these children. So we can share about that as we wait for more questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very interesting questions. Yes, good people, I am Augustine Richard Kakeeto. In Uganda, people tend to emphasize surnames, so in school I was called Kakeeto. At home I'm called Richard, but my first name is Augustine, so it happens. Then, Charlie Gonza. This church of ours doesn't encourage family planning. Now, do you see how family planning has been hijacked to equate to contraception? Do you understand, good people? Yes. Family planning is bigger than birth control. Okay? Family planning includes many things. Who will I marry? At what age shall we marry? Where shall we live? Finances, very many things. Now, the agenda pushers, when you hear the word family planning, it now means contraception. Do you see the problem? It is not true that the church does not encourage family planning. The church does. But the church encourages the moral approaches to family planning. And I reiterate, the young people, when you start preparing to get married, please invest time in the fertility awareness approaches. A woman is fertile for not more than 5 days. Okay? The medics will tell you. Just like some of us who have looked after animals, you know that once a cow is on heat, you had better service it or you will lose that month. Isn't it? You literally go hunting for the doctor for artificial insemination, or you go hunt for a bull. Isn't it? Because the egg lasts for 24 hours. But because the male seed lasts 3 days, the woman is then given probably 3 days, 2 days before and 2 days after. So around 5 to 6 days of what? Of fertility. The beauty about it is that the fertility awareness mechanisms are able to let the husband and wife know the exact day when she ovulates. All right? So challenge your chaplains. The chaplains who are around, please, youth chaplains, let's get medics to talk to our young people on these fertility awareness methods, because they're really necessary. So the church promotes the morally acceptable approaches to family planning, because contraception is intrinsically evil. Now, what is evil? Evil is the absence of good. Evil is what? The absence of, where there is no good, that's evil. Okay? Now, I happen to have limited sight. Okay? So the good sight that I should have is not there. So I suffer an evil. I'm not evil, may God forbid, okay? But I suffer what? And I need help of glasses. You understand me? Okay, so evil is the absence of what? Of good. Fertility is a good that exists naturally in a woman. Okay? Fertility is a good that exists naturally in a woman. What does contraception do? It takes away that fertility. You get the point? You now understand why the church teaches that contraception is intrinsically what? Evil. When we accept contraception as a good, we accept two things. We accept babies without sexual relations, or sexual relations without babies. I'll explain. Contraception, when you split it, the etymologists in the house, chaplains, you collect me, contra is against. Sepsio is from the Latin word cepere, to hold, cepere, pshika. Now, those of you who look after animals, as in, you understand me? Now, so contra, against cepere, okay? So it is a contraceptive because it is ordinarily against the meeting of the male and female gametes. Are we together? Okay? So, par excellence, you'd realize that the real contraceptive is the barrier method. Okay? The condom, or male or female, that which prevents the meeting. You will then realize that many of the other things called contraceptives might not actually be contraceptives. They might actually serve to cause abortions. Am I communicating? Yes. Okay? This is the big lie that has been told to us, packaged very well, and now contraception equals family planning. Everyone who has family planning understands contraception. They don't understand family planning in its totality. Okay? So if we accept that contraception is good, then we are actually saying that sexual relations that are closed to life are good. Are we together, good people? Yes. If we accept contraception as good, then sexual relations that are closed to life, that are not open to human life, are good. Now, can you list them? Those sexual relations that are closed to life?
Lesbian behavior would become good. Homosexual behavior would become good. Pedophilia would become good. Bestiality would become good. Necrophilia would become good. Are you following, good people? Yes. That by accepting contraception as good, we inadvertently accept many other sexual relations that are closed to life. That's what I meant by sex without babies, as a result of the contraceptive mentality. Okay? Then the babies without sex, that is, it's already obvious. You know that increasingly men are becoming irrelevant. You know that? If Cephas wants to have a baby, may God forbid, she doesn't have to get a husband. Okay? She can walk into a lab and select which seed should be inseminated into her. Okay? This is already happening. This is already happening. And the process for her conception would involve the mixing of her seeds, because we have to super ovulate her. Okay? We have to super ovulate her. A woman who releases 1 or 2 eggs a month, we get her to release as many as possible in 1 month. Harvest them into a petri dish, get the male seed, mix them a little bit, choose which one is likely to look good and whatever, implant, throw away the rest or freeze the rest. Do you see what we are doing to human life here? Okay? So, the contraceptive mentality, which separates the unity from the procreative functions of marriage, has the effect of leading to a slippery slope of many adversities. It is not by accident. By 1933, all churches were agreed that contraceptives are immoral. But the Episcopalians softened and said, look here, why don't we allow married people to use what? Contraception. No sooner had they opened the gate to the married people, contraceptives were in prostitution, they were everywhere. Okay? This same church found it very difficult in the year 2003, 70 years later. They couldn't stop themselves from ordaining a gay bishop. Do you understand the connection now? Yes. If that was okay, then this has to be.
It is pornography. It is something.
So it is not by accident that in many of our African countries, the first opening was to contraception. Now we are under pressure to legalize this behavior. Aid is being withheld. Lest. Okay? That's the kind of point that we are making, that Africa, through the young people, should arise. And the church to which you belong, the teachings of the Catholic Church are solid. They are solid on this question. We only ignore them. They are very solid. It is us who choose that because I have fallen, then everyone should fall with me. And yet you can arise in the real sense of the term. Dust yourself and stand for the truth. Okay? So, what is happening globally is targeting the policy framework. When a technocrat in government is asked, prepare for us a brief on how to improve our education, the documents they will look for are from which organizations at the UN? UNESCO. All UNICEF. Because these are powerful entities, they have capacity actually. They have the resources, human and financial, to prepare these frameworks for policy development. But once you get a framework for policy development that has been hijacked by agenda setters, but then not everyone at the UN is a bad person, okay? Not everyone at the UN is a bad person. But the pushers of this dangerous agenda are strategic, and they've placed themselves in very strategic positions. I'll give you an example. My first meeting with Joy Zako, it was I think the second or third meeting, was in Nairobi at the International Conference on Population and Development. This conference first happened in 1994 and has been happening every five years since then. So it was 25 years last year in November, the ICPD 25. And these big players, okay, and this time not only UN entities, because the UN entity involved was United Nations Fund for Population Activities, UNFPA, supported by the government of Denmark. By the way, Denmark supports population activities because it wants to limit migration to Europe. You understand? You say in their thinking is that because people are moving from Africa to Europe, just make sure the population in Africa does not increase. You get the point? That's the reasoning, okay? And you can check this data out on the internet or whatever, you'll see. The reason they invest into population activities is they want to limit migration. So UNFPA, supported by Denmark and Canada and the abortion organizations, Rutgers, Maristops International, IPPF. You must have heard about these entities because even in our country we have them. So they support this International Conference on Population and Development, words that are very sweet, population and development. But the agenda is retrogressive. And how do we discover that the agenda was retrogressive? Is that anyone who speaks the words I'm speaking, you understand me, whether on Twitter or on Facebook, you would be checked out. And when you apply to attend, you can't get to attend. You understand? So we realized that 2 months to the event, none of the people who are pro-life and pro-family had received an invitation or affirmation to attend. Then we realized that whatever agenda they were going to push was what? Was not good. So we organized a parallel conference, you see. Luckily, the event they were using, Kenyatta International Conference Center, the equivalent of our Serena here, across from it is the Christ the King of Kenya. So Holy Family Minor Basilica. So the bishop granted us the halls and whatever. We organized our own conference to speak our own things near them. Okay? And for some reason, our side got listened to because we made some real good noise. We were able to influence some governments not to commit. Okay? So we read through the statements and we influenced some governments to commit in favor of life and family. Now, these are things you young people are capable of doing where you are. It is voting season right now, okay? People are saying, others are securing your future or whatever. Okay. Have you heard any of our politicians speak anything about the family? If our constitution says the family is the basic unity of society that shall enjoy protection of the state, have you heard any politician who intends to push a policy position that protects the family? Young people struggling to start families and to found families, and the only thing the state does is to sign a certificate. Huh? Is our government doing anything to protect families? Good people. Huh? You had better use your numbers, young people, and ask the real questions. The dream society is one where the families are protected. And if the faith community is doing a good job in protecting families, states should support the faith communities in protecting the what? The families. If I were a recruiter for employment purposes, and 2 young people came before me, I would be biased in favor of the married young person. Okay? When I'm giving jobs, I would be biased in favor of the married young person. But that should translate even at policy level. There should be subsidies in taxation attached to being married and not being married. Okay? We should make getting married attractive. Okay? We should make getting married attractive. And those who choose to remain single for selfless reasons, not for selfish reasons. You know, there are people who choose to remain single for selfish reasons. Okay? But those who choose to remain single for selfless, you choose to remain single so you may be available to serve others. Those can also be protected for having taken that decision. We need to infuse our thinking about family into policy, into law. Okay? We can no longer continue to separate the church social teaching and the catechism on one side, and then we say the law and the policy are on the other side. We are the young people who are going to take up these jobs. We've gone to school, but unfortunately, we get the degrees in law, in medicine, in social work, as high as they can go, but we are still first graders in terms of our faith. True or false? So it is necessary that we as young people put some more energy in knowing what our church teaches. Okay? Then there is this worry, okay? You know, it's having so many children that you cannot do what? Take care of. The church is not asking us to have children like rabbits. Okay? For sure, the family planning methods that the church teaches can allow you to accurately space your children, even if you want them every 2 years, or every 4 years, or every 5. Okay? The church talks about responsible parenthood. Okay? But I belong to the school of thought, and this is my personal opinion, okay, that people are an asset, they are not a liability. When a baby is born, you can choose to look at the baby as a mouth to feed and a body to clothe, or you can look at the baby as a brain to think and hands to work. Okay? These two approaches are different. If you look at the baby as a liability, we have to make sure we limit the what? The liabilities, like any business. But if we look at the babies as assets, then we invest in the assets. For sure, it takes at least 21 years of investment in a child. At least 21 years. Therefore, it is necessary that this child is received in a context of a secure family. And if the child is received outside the marriage, in terms of single parenthood, then society has a duty to journey with the single parents. Okay? So that the child gets an opportunity to be raised responsibly. And always society wins when we invest in the family. When we undermine the family, society loses. Ask the Europeans, they will tell you. Ask the Americans, they will tell you. Ask the Canadians, they will tell you. You undermine the family, society begins to lose. So my challenge is to ask the young people of Uganda to take the family as important. To allow parents do their job. To help the parents do their job. So that ultimately we have a generation that we can count on. Is there another set of questions? Okay.
The Lord is good all the time. Thank you so much. These are the questions. First of all, close to 10 people have responded, and they are saying thank you so much, Richard, for being available. This is a very serious issue. This one says, Richard, I am happy I feel light again. Thank you. There are some here who have put forth questions. What is SHRS in full? From Buyege Parish. Thank you, parishioners of Buyege. Victoria from Bukedia Catholic Parish comments, says, thank you so much, Brother Richard, for the presentation. It has encouraged us in our journey in life. Keep it up. It says, poverty, divorce, not marrying in church contributes to the suffering of the young people. Could there be any organization or camp to intervene in this? Three, Jimmy Ogwal says, Brother Richard, well done. Talk more about profile agenda. In quotes, abortion. Because it is rampant now, and it is really rampant. Says thank you. Richard Matovu on Facebook says, thank you so much. This topic is serious. Thank you so much. And he comments, says, the Pope spoke about the issue of homosexuality. We are lucky in Africa, it has not yet reached. That's according to how this is put. We are lucky in Africa, it has not yet reached, or in the other village, it has not yet reached. But how can the youth who have nothing to do abstain from this? There's a big question behind this. Yes, you are our professor, and it's good you are studying, you are finalizing your dissertation, PhD. We wish you all the best. There is this, Samuel says, Mr. Richard, I think as youth, we need specific topics like this one here. Educate us more and more, and we are ready. Thank you so much. He's just commenting. So these are some of the few that we have received. There's this. Let's take this. Yeah, please. Yeah. So, dear listeners, keep on sending. Our team on the media platform, they're busy, but the facts are being given here according to the Roman Catholic Church teaching. And you remember what we said, if you belong to a sect, if you belong to an organization that is promoting this, and you feel you are under a pressure, feel free to call the Episcopal Conference and tell them, I'm working in this organization and this is happening to me, I don't need it again, and you will be helped. And that's what the young people are now trying to ask these days. So much, brother, please come and give us the answers.
Okay. Yes, what is SRHR in full? Sexual, reproductive health and rights. Okay? At the beginning I indicated it starts off with reproductive health, then it stretches to sexual health, then it is merged into sexual and reproductive health, and ultimately the nail is plugged with rights. That phrase is not accidental. Sexual and reproductive health and rights. It is a deliberate phrase by the agenda pushers who are undermining human life and undermining the family. Okay. Now the question of poverty and divorce and whether there are any organizations that would intervene. I'm glad that you had discussions earlier in the week trying to solve this question of poverty. And some people have actually argued that poverty is where? it is usually in the mind. It is still a call out there that Christians must start thinking economics. Okay? Christian cooperatives are not very present. And yet we are favored with the strongest bank in this country. Aren't we? Do we have enough cooperatives amongst the young people? Wherever you are, is it at the parish level? Is it at the diocesan level? It is possible to get ourselves out of what? Of poverty. Pool resources together, buy together, do exchange together, buy in bulk. If you are 10, 20 households and you choose to buy a bag of sugar and share it equally, you will have spent less on that kilogram of sugar. You get the point, good people? Okay? Collective activity is important so we can deal with that poverty question. Now, I hope that this person is using divorce loosely. Okay? Because the Catholic Church never dissolves a marriage. Okay? As in divorce. Never dissolves it. Though it may annul a marriage. The Catholic Church could declare that even though these people went through a ceremony and they had children, they were never married actually. You understand me? That the church can declare. Okay? But it cannot say that this marriage existed, but it is now dissolved. That in the Catholic Church. But will the church allow a woman to remain in an abusive relationship? No, it won't. If it is abusive, the church will allow you to separate. But you're separated, but remain married. Okay? So, yeah, I hope that the question of divorce is used loosely, as in people separate. If that question can be written down further, that would be grateful. Then, yes, the question of the abortion agenda. It is rampant. Yeah, we know. We know it is rampant. I've already told you that our own medical doctors who were trained to journey with mothers in pregnancy have been enticed to buy into this, but I know it will change. In the United States, there are Catholics like us, and there are Christians like us. And there, abortion was legalized in 1973. And for them, it became a political question. Okay? Today in the US, the question of abortion is a political question. People will vote for Trump with all his mistakes and human failings, but because they are saying, look here, he is pro-life. Okay? And those who are pro-abortion will vote Joe Biden with all his human failings and weaknesses, but because he's what? He's promoting abortion. Since the 80s, every time you get a Republican in White House, they activate a policy called the Mexico City policy. It is a policy passed by Ronald Reagan that American taxpayers' money shall not be spent on promoting abortion anywhere in the world. Okay? Meaning USAID and all these American agencies, when a Republican is in power, they will not spend money on Marie Stops, on all these abortion clinics that you know of. They will not spend money on advertising abortion anywhere. Every time a Democrat comes to power, that policy is suppressed and money still goes to these agencies. You get the logic? Yes. So for them it is a political question. If we as young people opposed to abortion, please don't normalize it, because the reason it is rampant is that we have normalized it. Okay? We have normalized it. It is not normal. And by the way, if anyone amongst us, including our viewers, has gone through this terrible experience of abortion, we understand you. We know you didn't choose. You were pressured into it. You thought you didn't have options. Please find a priest, find a counselor, and try to heal out of it. People have been traumatized. People don't even know that an abortion traumatizes the father of the child. They don't know. They think it is a woman's. They think it's a woman's issue. And the young women think, I'm just solving this problem. But you remain a mother of a dead baby. Unfortunately, you participated in killing that baby. Okay? The abortion does not de-impregnate you. You understand me? It only makes you a mother of a dead baby whom you participated in killing. So you would need to heal out of it. There's a lot of counseling has to take place. The unfortunate bit, okay, is that there are people making money off this situation. I sympathize with the women who have to choose abortion. Okay? I literally sympathize with the women who have to choose abortion. But if it is true that abortions are rampant, then the young people, wherever you are, you have to step up and protect your colleagues. No one is a saint. Are we together? She's pregnant, let's protect her. Let's make sure she delivers the baby and return to school. Let's find a home that can host her. Sometimes it is the parents who are very rough on this pregnant girl. She doesn't know where to go. The boys, we've been part of the problem because very few girls choose abortion when the boys are willing to stay around. You know that. Okay? If the man who is responsible is willing to stay around, fewer and fewer girls choose the abortion. So we just have to step up and make sure that we protect. Because as soon as a baby is in the equation, the baby begins to take precedence. The baby is vulnerable. It was not part of these guys' games they were playing. Are we together? So we have to protect the baby. Okay. Now, how do we go about when a woman who follows Catholic family planning approaches accidentally conceives? Now, we call it natural family planning. Okay, usually that's the word. And a woman on natural family planning cannot accidentally conceive. Okay? Because a woman on the fertility awareness methods knows the day when her egg is released. Okay? And the beauty about it is that this job is done with the husband. When we were receiving instruction with my wife, it was me who was doing the recording. Okay? So we spent around 4 to 5 months receiving instruction. But she was telling me the signs and I was recording the what? The signs. You get the point? And because it is collaborative, it improves even communication in the marriage. Okay? And you choose to have sexual relations knowing today we are likely to have a baby. You understand me? You would know that today we are likely to have what? A baby. So a woman using the fertility awareness methods that the church affirms cannot be accidentally pregnant. Are we together? But how do you go about it? I don't know. The church teaches us that the baby is a gift. Are we together? And one of the questions they ask at the altar, Father, you see, will you accept the children that God will give you? Isn't it? And then you say, I will. Okay? So, in my understanding, while I've dismissed the question of accidental pregnancy when you're using the fertility awareness methods, I also say we need to be open to life. Okay? I'm a father of 7. Okay? But each baby has come with its blessings. I know every time my wife would say, we've conceived, you know which opportunity struck in that week. I can name an opportunity that struck in that week. So every baby has come with its blessings. Okay? So we have to be open to life. And people, if a family is struggling, Christian charity requires that we support, because the mindset is bona bona nabo, suffer with them. You understand? That is the mindset. And yet, we have a duty to protect. Because every time we make
The probability
children a
of
burden,
depressions and anxiety.
every time we make conception a burden, we just increase abortion. We just play into the hands, okay, of the abortion industry. Now, when a woman stealthily goes for artificial family planning and the man discovers, but when he asks her, she denies, what do we do? My friend, these contraceptives speak for themselves. You can say no probably because they put it under the arm and is not seeing. Okay? But the irritability, by the way, I'm told you people are running so many programs in our dioceses of gender-based violence. I'm really requesting that someone does a study. There could be a connection between increased use of contraception in our families and violence in the homes. There could be, I don't know, okay? I have not done the research, but I'm suspecting. Why do I say this? You are aware that in the first 3 months of pregnancy, those of you who've lived with pregnant women, there's a sort of mood swings and irritability and stuff like that, okay? Now, those of us who've been married for some time, you know these things. And as soon as someone begins behaving in a certain way, you know how to handle yourself. You understand me? So that you don't escalate the situation. Okay? Now, there used to be estrogen-based hormonal contraception in the 80s. And they were aggressive. Blind sight, loss of sight, dizziness, headaches, and stuff like that. Then they shifted to progesterone-only contraceptives. Now, progesterone is for gestation. The steroids necessary for gestation. You understand me? Progesterone, okay? The steroids necessary for? Meaning, progesterone is the hormones that are at peak when a woman is pregnant. You get the point? Because they are progestation. They're supposed to help the gestation do what? You understand me? Now, when you get a pregnant woman onto progesterone, and she's not pregnant, but she's on what? So she is chemically pregnant, isn't it? I'm a layman in these things. I'm not a medic. She is chemically pregnant, but not physically. You get the point? So it would also be possible that her psyche and her behavior could be the behavior of a woman in early pregnancy. Amma, just think about it. I have no facts on it. I'm just smelling a rat. That there could be a possibility that our wives and our women are increasingly becoming irritable based on their chemical composition at that point in time. And you know, in other countries, maybe not yet in Uganda, these hormones are being introduced in the bodies of girls at 13. You're going to school, I don't want pregnancies, let's put that thing. Okay? So you're finishing university at 24, 25, you found a girl to marry, and she has been pregnant for 13 years. You get what I'm talking about? She's been chemically pregnant for? And we are now wondering why menopause has been shifted. People are looking for babies at 30, they can't get them. Do you get the problems we are dealing with, good people? Okay. So let's arise and put our church teaching to use, and it will help us deal with some of these things. The church's teaching on these matters is solid. Okay, it is us who are failing to do it, to put it to use. Okay. Father, there's some questions.
Put your hands together for our brother Richard. Thank you so much. Lydia from Bogolobi comments, we need to educate our children as early as possible on the Catholic doctrine. Thank you, Richard. People say contraceptives is one method to kill. What do you say? Pauline says, what method would the church recommend for someone suffering from polycystic ovarian syndrome because they don't have regular periods? In quotes. 4. How can I know my fertility days? This is Nakato Ruth. Okay, you hold this. You hold this. Joke. Now Joke is laughing at me. The Lord is good. All the time. The Lord is good, and that is nature work. Next. What is the one? This one writes. Richard, if I use withdraw method during love making as a means of child spacing, am I sinning? Richard, tell me. Now, viewers, I apologize because I'm also now putting on like this, but I have to read. These are questions that are supposed to be answered. Don't cut and quote me somewhere that have. Okay. Brother, thank you for the information. Now he says, this is Brother August. He says, is it because of contraception that these days women have big bums and big stomachs? Tell us. I don't know. Richard, please hurry up and help me because I'm sweating. Okay. Okay. Mr. Gassin says, Richard, you are right about this topic. Correct and right. Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause. Charlie Gonza Juliet on WhatsApp says, sir, the church doesn't encourage family planning. I'm reading as it is. But there is torture. How can the Catholic Church handle this? Peter on Instagram says, I think, Mr. Richard, this adoption of children sometimes predisposes the people to the suffering of the children. Adoption of the children predisposes these same children to suffering. And these are the questions, brother. Please, you're most welcome. Shall you write? And then give it.
Thank you. Some of the questions are very medical, and I'm a layman in medicine. So the question of the polycystic ovarian syndrome, I'd rather, before we finish, you could find an answer from one of our medics to give a more scientific explanation. But the question of irregularity of the cycle, by the nature of the natural family planning method, you will still get the symptoms pre-ovulation, even if the cycle is long. You understand me? There's a type of mucus that is really elastic and slippery during the time of ovulation. It will not come if she's not going to ovulate. You understand me? Because the body has its clock. Okay? So it could be regular in the sense that sometimes it is 21 days, then 35 days. Okay? That irregularity happens, but the same symptoms pre-ovulation will be the same, even the temperature. So Joy and the Father Chaplains who are here, I think we need to step up our training for fertility awareness mechanisms. We used to say, let's wait until people are preparing for marriage, which was the right thing. Our adversaries are targeting them in primary school. Okay? So we had better start providing fertility awareness skills and training as early as people's first menses. Say, yes, you've seen this, but even somewhere in between the month, you will feel like this. Okay? So that the young people already know their biology. Our adversaries who are pushing the sexual and reproductive health and rights agenda are riding on that ignorance. Okay? So let's figure out how to get the right people to teach the right things to our young girls so that they are already able to read their body. And that responds to whoever asks, how do I know my fertility days? If you're under 13 and you've not yet started your menses, you cannot know your fertility days. But if you're past that, find a Catholic hospital or health center near you and ask the questions to any of the nurses there. Tell the nurse that I'm told the Catholic Church teaches us how to know our fertility. Okay? Then ask that nurse or health practitioner to tell you. If they can't, go to your parish priest and ask that same question. He will guide you. He will guide you. Yes, he will guide you. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So the question of having our young girls taught this biology early and the young men to be responsible. Part of the challenge we are having is irresponsible young men. They want the pleasure out of sex, but not the responsibility of raising a child. Okay? That one is a big problem. And we must nail it down. You cannot claim to be Catholic when you are an irresponsible father. We need to help our young men, our colleagues in the youth groups, to be responsible parents. Okay? So yeah, it is both ways. It cannot be just on the girl alone, and that's why the girls call it torture. You know, that's why the girls call it torture, because we leave it to them, and the young men just load it over to the girls. How can, okay, all right, people say contraceptive is one method of killing. What do you say? Now, I alluded to this earlier, that some of the things called contraceptives are not actually contraceptives. They are abortifacients. Contraceptio, we say it against conception, okay? Something that prevents the meeting of the male and female gametes, all right? But many of these things distributed as contraceptives do abortions. We call the abortifacients, about facere. Facere is to do, okay? Some of these things do abortions, especially that morning after pill specifically, or anything that makes the uterus incapable of allowing the new baby to attach. You understand me? So you're on some kind of hormone, you've actually conceived, but the baby cannot implant. You understand me? So that hormone or that substance on which you are will have occasioned an abortion. Akaweta, I don't know what that thing is. That thing that they keep announcing. Yes, it makes actually the womb uninhabitable. Okay? For the baby. Because sometimes they say it is crippling the sperm. You understand me? But if the sperm succeeds and makes its way to the ovum, it would make that ring would make it, the womb will be uninhabitable and the baby will be ejected. Okay? So that's the within which we are operating. Yes, then if I use withdrawal method, am I sinning? Now, Genesis 38, 8 to 10, you've read it, onanism. Hey, these are good Catholics. Good Catholics are not very familiar with the Bible. Yeah? You can just check, just type the word onanism in your URL or search engine, and Genesis 38, 8 to 10 will pop up. Okay? Traditionally, in this community, it was acceptable for a brother to take on the wife of a deceased brother and help raise children for the brother. So someone gets instructed to do this for his brother, and because he didn't want to do it, every time they were having sexual relations with this brother's wife, the deceased brother's wife, the guy would do exactly what my friend is saying here. He would spill the seed. And the Bible tells us God punished this fellow. You understand me? For spilling the seed. But seriously, how would this action of onanism differ from masturbation? Huh? It wouldn't, because it is self-pleasuring without openness to life. We said the sexual act, the marital act, is unitive and procreative. You remember? Okay? And as soon as you separate that, you open the gate for many of these things. Yeah. And that reminds me that within the framework of comprehensive sexuality education, children as young as 5 are taught about masturbation. And that it is okay, provided you do it in private. That's what the teaching is. It is graphic stuff. There is a link I will share with Joy on the war against children. Please throw it out to the youth. Let them know the content of this material. It may not come in the same way in which it is shown in that material, but you will know that most of our content has now been contaminated. Those of you who are teachers, keep a close eye on CRE, keep a close eye on social studies, keep a close eye on science. It might look like you're teaching biology, yet it has been packaged for you to corrupt the mind of the young people. Okay? Yes, I think those are the questions we had.
The Lord is good, and all the time. You know, Richard, as I was discussing with you before you came here, I told you you are entering into a very sensitive part of the lives of the young people. And I want to tell you there are 100,000 SMSs that are coming specifically to thank you. To thank you very much for this input. They are all appreciating this effort and your knowledge you have shared today. And there are some comments. The comments are that from your background of sharing, the Youth Apostolate Office needs to partner with the church leadership and put in the bracket here, church fathers, to put special programs for the young people to prepare them, especially those intending to enter into the marriage vocation. I think this is a very positive comment. And somebody is saying here, this session is very awesome, brother. Thank you very much. I got a thought, if possible, through the church leaders, we should ask all movements, meaning I think these are around youth movements and associations, all youth movements need to have the package of pro-life. Richard, please, this is something that we can partner with you, and you can get contacts of those who can specifically promote this program among the youth, pro-life program, so that we make our young people to avoid using contraceptives that is very dangerous to their reproductive health. And then there is somebody here, a great session, you have highlighted exactly what Father Frank from the US, a Catholic priest who has dedicated his life and ministry in protecting the unborn and ending abortion, evil acts like masturbation, in both sexes, issues of drug abuse, and many others. He heads several pro-life groups. I think it will be very nice for our youth leaders and the priests to organize special sessions for our young people at diocesan level. This is a comment from somebody coming from Lira Diocese. I think really people are very interested in what you have presented, and I want to tell you, the viewer out there and the listener, that we are going to continuously engage the different platforms that you have been accessing us through, to make sure that we also design some online programs from these rich, intelligent Catholics that God has blessed us with. Richard works in Nairobi, but he's our own. He's a Ugandan. He's our own. So we should always continuously engage them in our youth activities and in our youth programs so that they come and share their knowledge. More comments are coming. Richard, some mother here is saying, this is very beautiful. I wish you were always there to speak this to our youth of these days. And I hope many of the young people have been listening. Dear parents, please encourage your children to always keep within the church. I think really this is something positive. They are just trying to appreciate all our comments. Our moderator of the day, there are many comments and questions coming through SMS, through WhatsApp. I will request, because of time factor, you come and wrap up so that we can enter into the next session. Cephas, thank you.
Thank you so much, our coordinator. Now I will invite Patrick to thank our facilitator in a special way.
Praise the Lord. The Lord is good. All the time. All the time. The Lord is good and loves his nature. I was
your journey was long.
Dear young people of Uganda, chaplains, youth leaders, animators, religious men and women, this year, Uganda Episcopal Conference, Uganda Catholic Secretariat is organizing online Scientific National Youth Conference for all the young people in the country. Hosted by Radio Maria Uganda and Radio Sapienza. Remember, all the substations of Radio Maria Uganda will broadcast live all the programs. Just tune in and get connected. The theme for the celebration is taken from Luke 7:14. Young man, I say to you, arise in your respective dioceses. Just tune in and have the celebration live. This program is scheduled from 8th to 13th December 2020. For any information, contact the National Youth Coordinator, Uganda Episcopal Conference, and Radio Maria Uganda. Remember, we are waiting for you to get connected, and don't forget, Christ is alive!